Alright, so we're back for another episode of Rough Cut XJ. As described earlier, I believe it was in the first video, right rear subframe had a nasty little kink in it. I can't get the inner bracket to slide in, so a buddy of mine decided to help me out. And we're going to try getting it straightened up just enough to get the bumper bracket slid in there. Got a steel beam there and one in the front, so we can stretch it if we have to. And this is what we're working with. No, it's kind of dark. Don't have a ton of lighting, but right here there's a kink in here. Previous owner rolled back and bumped the tree. It's got a crack right here, which will get welded up, and a little ripple right here. Come on.
I think it's time for me to move along and start anew. But hell if I know where to go. I'll say goodbye to those that I loved and I knew, and start down the windy desert road. Ain't no reason to ask me why, 'cause if I knew then I wouldn't have to leave. One more look back to all that I've done, then I'll never turn, and don't you dare follow me. Running dust through my head, breathing in the howling wind. This is all I want to have, miles and miles away from a town that ain't on the map. I think that I'll head north today. I know some folks that live that way. If I'm lucky, they will take me in. The sun is up and damn it too, 'cause it's way too hot in the afternoons. I wish that it would rain again. A lonely wolf is calling out, and I know that I have to go. I keep remembering what I had, and the day moves on so slow. Striking out on my own, feel the ache in my bones. This is all I want to have, miles and miles away from a town that ain't on the map. Oh, give me time. I swear that I'll be fine. Oh, I can't look behind, but I swear to you that I'll be fine, so don't cry.
Happy, happy, joy, joy. started. It's fucking right there. Need one of those new bent bolts. Alright, so that went a little bit differently than planned. I was hoping to show straightening the frame rails, the rear subframes that were bent, and unfortunately that didn't work out quite how I wanted. The shop I was in was a little too dark and I didn't have any lighting or nothing. We didn't get them straight back to factory. We just got them straight enough to get the bolts in for the rear bumper brackets. It's 3/16 plate steel, and there's an inner plate as well, so it pretty much sandwiched that whole piece. And when I tightened it up, it got some of the twist out of it, lengthened it, and straightened it back up. They're not perfect. The right side still has a crack in it, so I'll get that cleaned up and welded later, and I'll just show you what we got. So there's the crack. I just got to hammer that back flat. I need to get all the coating and paint off. And you can see where that dent in the subframe right about here should be down just a little bit. So when I hammer this, it'll come back down. You have another plate almost as thick on the inside sandwiching all this together, so that's not going anywhere, and as well as on the back. Not really too worried about it. Once I get this hammered flat and welded back up, I'll get this all cleaned up. Should be pretty good, but for now, I'm gonna go ahead and get the rear bumper on. Generally, when you do your rear bumper brackets, I got one bolt I got to run a nut in. The nut's generally tack welded and it'd come out, so I'll get a new nut in there and get that bolted up. But generally you're supposed to leave these brackets tight, slide your bumper on and tighten them up. So hopefully I don't fight anything trying to get that to be the case. Like I said, I wanted to run all these tight to tighten everything back up and straighten everything back up. So we'll have to see how this works out for me. I might run into a couple problems, and if so, I'll loosen these outer bolts here and maybe the two here and kind of wiggle it. I do not want to pull them out. I had to run longer bolts than what came with the kit just because the way stuff was bent. That way I can get that inner plate sucked down and get everything bolted up. So if it wouldn't have been for that, these brackets would have been an easy install. Would have taken, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes to get them all set up and in there. Ended up being about a 2-hour project just to get everything straightened up and get those brackets in. But that's no fault of Smittybilt at all. Their kit, everything lined up good once it was sucked into place. So stay tuned. I'll get the bumper hung up on there, get some hardware in it, and show you what it looks like.
I think it's time for me to move along and start anew, but hell if I know where to go. I'll say goodbye to those that I loved and I knew, and start down the windy desert road. Ain't no reason to ask me why, 'cause if I knew then I wouldn't have to leave. One more look back to all that I've done, then I'll never turn, and don't you dare follow me. Running gusts through my head, breathing in the howling wind. This is all I want to have, miles and miles away from a town that ain't on the map.
And finally, what should have taken about an hour, hour and a half ended up taking up 3/4 of my day. This is what held me up. Due to that subframe being kicked back a little bit and shortened up, I couldn't get the bumper back far enough to clear. This side was all right, it was snug, but you could see how it shifted over. Taillight was busted and I bumped it a little bit and broke it just a hair bit more. But if your Jeep has rear subframe damage and you're trying to install a bumper and it has the quality that the Smittybilt does, you're gonna play hell. Get the subframe straightened up. If it's a wheeling rig, just beat it around, do what you gotta do, which is what this is. If this didn't have the subframe damage, it would have taken maybe an hour to get the bumper on. When you put your brackets on, try and put them on loose and pull them all the way back. You're going to want your brackets as far back as possible. That way you can get your bumper mounted and then push everything forward so you don't run into that issue. Now, this kit also came with quarter panel pieces, which are right here. And I don't know that I'm going to be running those yet. Want to kind of wait and see. I might just turn around, take some 3/16 plate and skin the whole rear quarter. I got to do some body work there. I'll get the hammer and dollies out, straighten that up a little bit. Some of that might disappear when I go to trim the fenders anyway, but the bumper, the front and rear bumper and the install and the brackets and the bolts and all that is freaking awesome. They give you a couple extras. Getting the old one off on the front was harder than putting the new one on. All the brackets lined right up, everything matched right up, and it was killer. The rear, I knew I was going to run into problems. I had to go in and L-notch the slots, because the slots just go up and down. I needed to L-notch them about 1/8 of an inch. That way I could get my bumper pushed on far enough to get the bolts started, just because I couldn't get it all the way forward. I knew this corner was going to give me a little bit of problems anyway. I'm really not that worried about it. I'll go in and kind of straighten that up. By the time it gets rhino lined or plated, you'll never even see it. I do have to go in and get down to bare metal on that crack. I'm going to weld it in and then just weld a reinforcement patch over the crack, and that'll take care of that. The other side was fine. Everything else got sandwiched in, straightened up as much as possible, so she'll be all right. Let's see, I'll be ripping the rack off. I already got one of the yellow top Optimas in. I got to do new belt, idler pulleys, heater hoses. I got an upper radiator hose with a pinhole in it, so I'm going to get a new upper radiator. Might as well do the lower one while I'm at it, and get new plugs and wires and cap and rotor put in it, do a fluid flush on it. That'll be all new coolant, new engine oil and filter, drain the front and rear axles and see what they look like and get those filled back up. Other than that, oh yeah, of course. So something always pops up when you think you're getting ahead. So on my way back from getting that subframe piece straightened up a little bit and getting the bumper mounting brackets, the rig started pulling to the left, and I couldn't figure out why until I got home and I got outside and I had smoke rolling off the front left caliper. So now I get to pull that apart. I have a feeling it's just all seized up and the caliper can't float. So I'll have to get the caliper yanked off, cleaned up. They were grooved out pretty bad anyway, so looks like I'll be pricing some rotors and some new pads. Thank you for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe, check in soon.